end game right top 6 there for Peterbot. And Pollo, they still reign supreme. They're still on top of the leaderboard, 130 points, but Kelly, Acorn, and Bolts closing the gap.
Are they? That's almost a 50% difference of points right now between first and second place. Acorn and Bolts doing a great job, though, in that game. If anyone's going to start trying to take away that first place spot, it might be that duo right there. But also, we had another incredible solo clutch coming out of Higgs. Clicks going down a little early, but Higgs, we saw him in the solo series. When he is a solo, it is not too much to worry about because he can just absolutely tear. Even when it's a 1v2, Higgs is not down.
Yeah, I really hope we don't get into this little bit of a pattern here for Clicks and Higgs. We've kind of seen this happen before where a lot of the points, and it's been with different duos, by the way, but it just seems to be something that is synonymous with Clicks, is that sometimes on his team, it's just like a lot of the points just come from these solo clutches.
And I really want to see them alive as a duo, right? Just a strong-setted duo in a lot of the games. So being left for like some solo clutches in game number 1, game number 2 is not so good for the duo, but hey, listen, they're picking up those points, right? They're putting on those solo performances, so it's still going well. They are in 5th place, but just imagine how much better they could be doing if they're able to stay up and help.
The game does feel very chaotic, right? Like obviously this is very different to BR, and you can reload earlier on in the game until zone 7. But you know, how do we maybe approach this? We both need to stay alive as long as possible because look, two high-profile duos, right? Or ending up as solos. So is there things we can do to combat this?
I mean, sometimes it's a little bit hard, right? When you think about reload and how much ability is in the game, you're able to, all these duels are able to stay so healthy until the very end of the game. They just have so many options available for rotate. So usually when they go into those end games, their match is so healthy. And Clicks and Higgs, those type of players that like to take on the players that aren't necessarily as healthy. So the fact that there's going to be less of them in reload, maybe need to make some adjustments there. But like I said, we can go ahead and nitpick, but they're still in 10th place. They're still doing good.
Yeah, honestly, the only criticism I can give them is that nitpicking, making sure that they do top off, they have to go back into Storm to get some more mats, get some more heals, making sure that they are, once that zone 9 kind of hits, that they kind of run out of everything, and they're not able to kind of come back and get that refresh, get those eliminations on the low ground, and I think that they kind of need to pick their battles a little easier. Like I said, nitpicking. Who are we to talk? It's hard to really judge Higgs when there's just so many other good teams. Not necessarily what they're doing wrong, but what everyone else is doing right.
Yeah, I think some duos we're seeing already kind of like pressure the lobby, which I really like. Like if I look at Rapid, for example, he's kind of farming and kind of what we saw at the pro-am, the little LEA situation, but as players kind of respawn, there is an opportunity to kind of press them. It's very clear where they're kind of coming back into the game, right? You have this big rift effect, and suddenly you've got someone dropping out. When you have players that can laser, I don't even see that. That's a pixel to me. But to them, it's so clear, and their aim is so deadly.
Yeah, really like the game of Rapid. We were kind of talking about, hey, is the end game going to be a little bit different? They're going to be up, going testing for the high ground there. Yeah, their end game was definitely a little bit different. We didn't see them necessarily going for the high ground like we did in game number 1. But the early game was also completely different, right? They had and pressuring towards some of those eliminations. And picking up, we saw 6 right there, and the game had barely even started. But I'd love to see that for the duo.
Yeah, that's definitely helping them as far as the leaderboard is considered. They've gone 12th place, 7th place now, but with 12 eliminations, they're actually 2nd place right now for elims. And with it being points per elimination, that is definitely helping them. They just got to find that placement to kind of balance things out.
I want to highlight here as well, Lawrence and Batman Joe in 9th place. The kind of swinging nature of the competition, right? So their first game 17th place with only 2 elims, but this game here, 5th place with 8 eliminations, and now they're inside the top 10. I feel like this is going to come down to the wire, but guys, I feel like we do need these kind of top-off performances, right? If I can reload, let's just send it.
He's like, yeah, go ahead, I can flow down from the sky and then wrap it up bunch of these eliminations like this games. That's how it works, bro.
No, Zeke, let's get into reload right now. Let's play. I want to see how you play your game right now after that.
Yeah. We'll just hop in right now. We'll become the 21 duo, but it'll be 3 of us. And then you can carry us to a win. Guys, we're ready to go back into more of the action. This is game 3 of 8. So, casters, over to you. I for one would love to see play some reload. I don't know about you, Monster. Maybe put him in one of these lobbies, but the action continues to top. Who would have thought Game 2 had moments that look better than Game 1?
Yeah, I mean, look, for some, you're walking on the sunny side of the street. For others, it's a cool, brisk breeze, man. It's not looking good. But hey, Reload has told us one thing. Every game can go any which way. The pendulum can swing if you can just find your momentum in that early game and lock someone out, farm those points early.
Yeah, with it being an 8-game series, consistency truly is key. Yes, you might have to pick up eliminations at the end of the game, but you're seeing outside of maybe the 32-point lead for first, how close the leaderboard actually is. One game to bump you from 10th to 5th, and then from there you can probably bump into the top 2 spot. That's exactly what everybody is playing for today. That top 2 will get you to the finals later on this year.
Yeah, and it becomes a game of mental stress at this point. Can you stay locked in? And you know, look away from Peter Bottom for you. You know, they have a lot of points, but Game 3 is here. Let's jump on this battle bus.
It might be a little too early to start switching up your game plan, but depending on where you're at on the leaderboard, you might have to start thinking, hey, what is the best way to start to close that gap? You know, depending on whether you're 50 points down, how do I get to 40 after this game? How do I get to 30 and just kind of chip away at that deficit until you're good? King once again starting this contested fight off. Last game it was Deonta who went down first. This game is going to be Josh.
Yeah, King and Jargo have only found their success in the first set of eliminations. You know, making it to endgame has been fairly difficult for this team and many others. Now, no, Josh, of course, not going to let that deter them from having the game. Holden Rapid continue to push the press here over at the team stop. We know Islam with their north. We'll see if they end up finding it, as they do tend to stay in the storm no matter what. For Reg and Mop here, they seem to be doing just fine with their side of the map.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like I spoke about, for game 1, triple contested, regular contested, and then uncontested. As the day goes on, you realize, hey, maybe elsewhere there's not the loot that we hope. Maybe it's not fight in position. You see them inching their way back on over to CB Stack. Check how it works out for them later. But looking at that feed, Sharkman, regular again from Cole, and Eon, so 3 more players. Just kind of going down. Luckily for them, they still have their teammates to kind of reboot them. But as Zeke and Vivian and Kelly wrote down, it's almost like a beacon. You see the rip from the sky, you have to drop down, and with the mobility that's in this game, you more than likely will get chased.
That is definitely certain. Getting back over to King and Jargo, they just seem to have continued. I think they might have sent Yamzo back to the lobby. You don't see them nearby, but they do have a elimination seem to have to drop themselves at the moment.
Yeah, see Josh, looking just all around where is Yamzo at? Maybe he got out to save already. Peterbot show continues over towards Slurpee. You see Higgs making his appearance over on that side of the map, and it becomes more and more contested, even if not after drop, right after players are able to get a little bit of a loadout and feel comfortable starting the fight. Peterbot, instead of chasing one, he goes after who's closer, maybe no mobility. The shockwave comes out from Higgs. Good shot coming out from Pete, but not enough to get down yet. But with the last crash pad, he can continue on the chase. But Higgs has mobility of his own. It's the cat and dog. Shockwave versus crash pad. Can they catch up? Click tries to close the distance to lend a helping hand, but Peterbot not backing off.
Oh my gosh, there goes another shockwave. Send them this time clicks low on HD as well. This is just starting to crumble beneath them at the moment, and the pressure here from Poyo as well. It's not just Peterbot. Poyo's already in the mix, but it's a 2v1 off to Higgs right now. Higgs still puts up a great fight. Finds wonderful tags on Poyo, but Poyo gets the siphon as well, and they just have more than enough to go ahead and bounce back. So this is looking like a repeat of that major 2 where Clicks is kind of off. Major 2 where Clicks is kind of off in the distance, and Peterbot Poyo on the other side. Probably Peterbot, but you know, they're thinking about that fight once again.
Kind of drop back down. That's kind of where they land right out of the gate, so they do know where some of that loot left over is. Just basically having to restart fresh here when it comes to your materials and getting all of your utility, whether it's the heals, the grapple, or the shockwave. So from scratch from them, but with Higgs coming back to the game, along with staying alive, they're going to have a chance in this game still. Acorn and Bolts coming fresh off of that win. You see they already got one early game of elimination and kind of sticking to their plan. Acorn and Bolts usually play out every single one of their early games as slow as possible. If the zone pulls away, that's a blessing for them because they can use the launch pads, they can use the shockwaves with the Flowberry Fizz to get there safely versus everybody else rotating together.
Yeah, it's definitely a duel that is dependent on playing for placement points. It's and they're up at the top of the standings right now, but this is only game 3, and realistically, if you tune out at any time, but you tune back in, these games are going by very, very fast. Hold the raptor right now. Hold them up, 2 eliminations this game, so pacing relatively decent here, still at the steamy stacks.
Where I talk about the difference in eliminations, because start the game, Gold Raptor were in 8th place. With those eliminations, they moved up to 7th. They're one more point away from Scarenosed on that leaderboard. And this is kind of what I'm going to be trying to look at once we get to Game 7, Game 8. I'm going to become a mathematician, trying to break it down to figure out who actually qualifies at the end of the day and seeing how different everybody's playing it around the map. If you're out of zone, it almost seems like you have a little more freedom.
Making sure no one's in is going to have freedom to do anything with the loot that they want to make sure they secure here, but for them it's really picking up the lead, right? Opening and widening that gap between themselves and everyone else. 2 Eagles right now. That's uncommon for Peterbot, actually loses track of the opponent and chasing him. Profitable elimination says, you gotta be in here, buddy.
Even though he's looking for that even, I almost think it's worth it for them to be able to farm that. But I think he saw the foot as he jumped over. It's a little pixel there. Peterbot's able to see, and then he kind of look at his loadout. 3 different slurp juices. If you end up in a prolonged fight against Peterbot, it almost will feel like you have to eliminate him 3 different times in his singular fight. That's going to be scary once he gets into his groove.
Yeah, you wouldn't think someone could just build like a juggernaut loadout in a game mode like this one, but he's just going unpunished right now in the lobby. Yonzo and Josto just trying to make do with Holden coming behind here. It seems to be playing out pretty well for them so far. Take a look at the replay. All they did that given Cole that extra elimination here at the vending machine, so it's going to be a welcome set of points for them. Rituals. Angers here, just kind of hanging out right now, just biding their time now as things are starting to settle down. Again, as we get closer to Zone 5, where the pacing has almost converts, right? We start looking at things a little differently.
Yeah, that risk-reward scenario kind of comes into play. Early game, you can get away with a lot, but as the zone closes, it's getting harder and harder. As Flex gets taken out, Ritual and Agers kind of triangulate that position to get one less player off their side of the map. But just judging by the fall and loot, it almost seems like he was fresh rebooted right out of the sky. Light is staying alive. So even though they may not know exactly where Light is positioned, they know he's just right there somewhere. As Leaks continue to spawn, you see the rift open up. It's not just Ritual and Agers you have to worry about, it's so many other teams.
Yeah, this is the... Like the guy just, walking down the street, whistling, look over there, there's someone. Yep, exactly. There's someone. Yep, exactly. Anyway, Peterbot Foyo back to it. That's the result. Another team moving on in. General location. Comes out. Foyo's getting a bit of a fight here, potentially. See Peterbot, and then just jump out and meet him there. That clicks. I think it's clicks and eggs again.
They do land nearby, we just saw them because it's uncontested by Peterbot and Foyo. Not only them, but other teams as well want to steal away some of that loot. Aloe saw him kind of get farmed out of the sky a little bit. He is able to drop. You see in the med kit, that's going to be much needed. The vending machine, he cashes in on some of that gold. He realizes, hey, we might need to take our time. We might need to find a little bit more for our loadout, the materials that we're missing. So I like to play, not getting down on themselves and not making any desperate purchases this early in the game.
Shadow Virgo. Kind of slept on so far. They're at 3rd place coming into this. No just here. Zone 5 creeping on us. What are they trying to do right now for Dirty Dogs? They pretty much have a bit of another, I would say, favorable zone, right? It's just outside the Dirty Dogs. So game 1 obviously big here, and that played out very well for them. See what they can do with game 3 here. They're trying to keep a low profile. They're definitely looking to play point once again. And it's working best for them so far.
Yeah, when you hit zone, it's one of those things where community looks at it. Even you and I, analysts probably look at it. These are like must-win games when you get the zone on your side of the map, especially in a game like this in Reload where anything can happen at a moment's notice. For Acorn and Bolts, we saw a lot of their slow rotations throughout the first couple of games. This time around, fifth zone, they're already making it there early, and now they have decisions depending on what mobility they actually want to use. The zone is not too far away. They could one-hop this with a crash pad, but their strategy so far in the 2 previous games is the launch pad with the Flowberry Fizz.
Yeah, we'll see what they end up doing here. There goes the crash pad, so they've made the quick decision. Seems like this is already a decision in the making. Nada are follow suit as well. They find themselves to the front. Clicks and Higgs back on the other side as well. Just playing that low ground, keeping out of the line of sights here. This is a nice clean rotate for them as well.
I think that's the important differences when you kind of look at a situation. You think a lot of these situations are the same, but you're noticing some teams, when you're this close to zone, are going to use the shockwave. They're going to use the crash pad. Others will try to walk in and utilize that mobility later if they need it. They try to bring it with them farther and farther into these games. That's exactly what you see Clicks and Higgs is doing. They could one-shock it, safely make it indoor zone, maybe risk getting tagged up a little bit, but they're using other people's rotations, other people's builds that are already there as a safe way to find their way in.
Yeah, I do like that. I didn't even think that was going to be an option at that point, but good comms and good calls by them. Put themselves in a stronger position, and it doesn't cost them any material, so definitely favorable. And here we have it, zone 6 now. Starting to work its way and progress through. Nada are completely farming out this building, turning it inside and out, trying to just get back in the game. Notice that, you know, their material count is not the hottest here, considering we're right into the end, but still, things could be a lot worse for them.
Yeah, and kind of take note about Ark and his kind of rise to the scene last year, winning one major, close to winning a next with Southgo in school on NA West. He goes into the global and dominating almost everybody. I think this is his first actual big final on the Central with Kanata, trying to show that, hey, you took the chance in me, I'm really going to make it worth it. And while other people took chances, Paper's doing the same thing. Rezi, a relatively newer player to the scene, and honestly, looking through heats, it was looking very bleak for them, almost not qualifying, but game 8 of their heats, 3 Royale monsters, showing that they do have the blueprint already.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just those small moments of greatness that give you hope, right? Especially in your duo. You guys are new. You got to work a lot out. A lot of these teams have known each other for long periods of times, right? They're friends, but when you have someone like Rezi, let's just say it's maybe a little bit more new to the community. There's a lot to be desired there and a lot to work on. So we'll see what they can keep doing as they find their moments. But Bolt and Acorn, very much consistent duo here. They seem to have figured things out. We talked about synergy amongst duos, you know. This is not a team we've seen play with one another in the last couple of years, so we'll see how that ends up continuing to develop through. We jump on over to Peterbot in Pollo. Back like they never left. We've used that phrase so many times as we start to look at how this team manages to perform time in and time out.
Yeah, already 3 eliminations. Seeing the Flowberry Fizz, again, they're just kind of making sure they have a diverse amount of mobility from shockwaves, crash pads, and you know as well as I do, the Flowberry Fizz has that utility, the low grab effect. You kind of jump around even without actual mobility items to try to close distances. As Clicks and Higgs kind of peek through, waiting for the next zone. As it does pop, it goes all the way towards the south. It's not a max pull for Clicks and Higgs by any means, but they still have a few teams in front of them on this rotation that they have to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely got to continue to keep their eyes peeled here as we start to take a panning look at what's going on right now. Everyone's kind of hanging out. Acorn's team going for the Medmis deep in the zone right there, just trying to buy themselves some time before they make a big rotate and possibly cost themselves anything. Shockwaves, of course. This is the time to use them. Agers on their way possibly to high ground, but no, they just opt to give that one up. So notice that's what really good teams will do. Most of them will decide, not a shot, I'm playing high ground first. Not in this lobby, not in this type of of course, mobility meta with the shockwaves that play.
Yeah, we know Acorn and Bolts have that launch pad. I knew I saw somebody fly by at the corner of my screen, and I was thinking, was that Acorn and Bolts? Then I saw them down below. Somebody is stealing the strategies, the bag of tricks. It's cold and rapid this time around, using that launch pad to try to go ahead and dodge everything that happens down below. But notice where Rapid landed. He didn't go down below. He's trying to hold as much of the high ground as possible. His curve goes down to Peterbot. Him and Poyo make quick work of him and get that refresh that they need to keep themselves strong.
Yeah, here it is. One more team falls here shortly, and that'll be placement points earned to the lobby. Very crucial moments coming up ahead, and notice, even though no one was on high ground, Cold and Rapid seem to have learned their lesson. They're like, all right, we're just boxing up, man. We're not going to be doing anything too risky, not just yet. Clicks and Higgs, on the other hand, have to play for some elims here. This is a game where they have essentially dudded out on earning points so far, but we are, again, in this final stretch here. Peterbot says, you know what? Top King and Jargout try to get themselves out of that render distance like we continue to talk about. Teams will do that. And look, they're gone, but not for long. What goes up must come down. And they're forcing early descent.
Yeah, and I like the awareness, knowing the difference between the launch pads and the shockwaves, knowing they don't need to protect themselves. Cold and Rapid, they're almost not... continue to drop down layers. They don't want to become that focus of the high ground. We've seen it game after game after game. Whoever's that second height usually is the threat, and they get all of that pressure. So for Kanata and Arc, they're just trying to fall underneath the radar. They get to the front side of the zone, but look how stacked it is. Everybody's being displaced, including Lawrence, that goes down to both. A much-needed elimination because you look
at taking those sticks in the zone that no longer matter because it gets the HP. That's a whole other flop. I don't know what that was hard for Kanata, but they almost got set back in. This is crazy, folks. Just scrambling right now. He's like, I don't even know if this is my bed match. We gotta go. And he is burning through those shockwaves just to stick in the game. Like any exceptional player would. Clicks and Higgs, though, fall before they even get to find their footing to the hands of Agers there. Something looking to take a smell here. Low ground here on the side of the mountain. This is a desperate spot to be in. They gotta work their way out. Peterbot Williams just opting to stay up top. No one contesting them at all as we jump down to low ground. A complete different scenario at hand here. Aegis and Ritual are comfortable, and they have yeah, because that terrain on the ground, there's not even players really
rotating right above them. Paper and Resi are the ones that have all that action. That's why they move out towards the right, trying to dodge it all. But Peterbot and Boyo laughing ear to ear, just sending everybody to clash with one another, pressuring the top side of the boxes, burning through their materials. And look how far they are away from everybody else on that high ground. Not a singular shockwave without the Flowberry Fizz can't even reach heights that high. But Cold and Rapid, they continue to get sprayed. Cold runs out of builds, ends up on the offensive, going after both, lands a shot, but unable to get the elimination. Getting put in the blender as Rapid falls, Cold follows. It's his former teammate Acorn that gets the elimination.
Yeah, somehow Acorn's still in this game. Peterbot and Boyo opt to give up a little bit of that height there as they put themselves into harm's way. Paper goes up. He's going to send them falling down, but not before he gets knocked. Resi still in the fight. There goes the Siphon for Peterbot now, and they maintain control of the situation. Back to 8 eliminations, working their way towards another potential victory. Shockwaves there.
Yeah, that was a good play for Acorn, but they saw that one coming from a mile away. And luckily for him as well, as he's elevated. He's not on that ultimate low ground where all this is going down. Peterbot drops and uses the first slurp, gets into the mist grenade, drops Poyo the other slurp, and goes right back on towards zone, realizing, hey, I have to disrupt everything that's going down on the inside. Ritual goes down to the zone itself. Peterbot still flopping around, gets the elimination on Agers. That's going to be a wipe, but it comes at a cost. Poyo goes down. Now it's a 1v1 Peterbot versus Acorn, and he gets dropped from above. Second game of the day.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought Acorn was gonna have a little bit more of a fighting chance, but the limited mats and the low HP turns the tide in Peterbot's favor as they win another game here today. The third game is now complete there. Z, what do you think about that one?
Listen, I already sound the red alert earlier, okay? Peterbot, Poyo, we allowed them to reconnect. We allowed them to form a duo yet again. They just continue to put on a master class. I cannot believe it, and I love to think back on that first game and how they got the Penny was figured out. The context was different right back then. Peterbot had the grappler. This time he doesn't, Vivid, and yet still has enough time to drop a shot for Pollo, to still go in, to still take the fight down low, and walk away with a win. I mean, Peterbot is just different. He is just built different.
Ah,
yeah, I mean, they just
venía acá, venía acá. Vamos a pelear.
Yo soy Chappy. Stuff there, right? We saw them. They had the high ground. They were very, very willing to kind of give up the fuck about that here. But look at this already. Total points 228. Huge game 3 for the duo. Absolutely incredible stuff. But yeah, again, kind of returning to that higher ground. I do want to go ahead and say that my favorite.
Espérate, me agarró por la espalda. Ya, voy.
Vas a ver 600 saxo.
¿Qué?
Vas a ver 600 saxo.
¿De dónde eres tú?
Yo soy... ¿Qué?
¿De qué país eres?
¿Adivina?
Venezuela.
No.
¿De qué país?
Paraguay.
I mean, there's no one else that could have done that besides Peterbot and Pollo. To effectively lose, what, like 130, 140 white heels, just to be able to reposition themselves in the end game, and to then go for the win there. Peterbot didn't have full health in that final moment there as a solo player, and still, it didn't matter for him because he knew he was going to get the eliminations. He positioned himself so well where the low two teams were fighting each other. He was able to get that refresh, get that heal up, and then the rest is history.
Voy para allá.
Only Peterbot.
Venía acá,
to see these guys join at the hip once again, because man, Pollo just creates so much space and like opportunity and confidence in Peterbot. I love it. Now, of course, more things did happen for break. When we come back,
¿De dónde? Ah, de Paraguay.
No, manches.
A ver, ¿y dónde soy yo? A ver, decime.
Vas a Argentina.
Sí, vaya.
Lo suponía.
¿Se nota mucho?
Uy. No,
¿Cuánto?
Me mataron. Pienso que hice una buena racha. Dios, bien, no sé qué. Ayúdame.
Voy para allá.
No,
¿Dónde está?
No, me van a matar. Uy, no. Me morí de daño de caída.
Si estoy vivo. Ah.
¿Vos cuál sos?
Yo soy Chacho. Vamos, tu gente.
Saso, Ambu.
¿Cuántas kills yo hay?
Chucha.
Llevo 3.
No manches.
¿Cuántas kills yo hay?
Tenemos gente. Tengo gente abajo. Creo que tenemos gente abajo.
Voy para allá.
Ay, espera.
Voy para allá. ¿Te mataron?
No.
Hijo de gran puta.
Ay. ¿Quién te está disparando?
Allá. Pero nada, tranquilo. Ya lo solucioné ya.
Bro, técnicamente, vos te encerraron en una caja de metal y te estaban llegando entre dos.
Muerto uno.
Hay dos.
Ah,
¿Me lo
concha.
¿Ese sos vos?
No. Mira, anda al mapa. Te aparece Chacho. Ahí soy yo.
¿El equipo 5?
Sí.
Yo ahora mismo... Yo ahora mismo estoy disparando desde una posición muy buena.
¿Me aceptas la solicitud de amistad?
Dale, te la mando. Acepto, pero ten cuidado.
Ay, mándamela.
Mándamela vos. Yo soy Chapi-exe.
A ver, pero no, vos no sos Lucho que veo.
¿Qué?
No sos Lucho que feo.
¿Cómo que no sos Chucky? ¿Qué pedo?
Ah, vos no sos de mi equipo. Ya lo suponía. Pero...
Ya no están boxeando.
A ver, espérate. A ver, Chapi 28.
Chapi-exe.
Chapi Eche.28.
Hostia.
Alecran.
La partida terminó. A ver, ¿dónde estás? ¿Dónde estás? Toma tu skin.
No, buscame
Unite
O,
mi equipo.
buscame O.
Espera, voy a
Buscame O, buscame O, buscame O, buscame O. Dale.
Ya te vi. Cape, chico, este soy yo, mira. El ninja rojo. Este soy yo.
No, yo hago este Martín.
Entonces, yo con lo que te hacía hace rato te maté.
Mentira, 8. ¿Qué tal? Vení,
Pero no,
vení.
somos team, no, otros somos team.
Guacho, mandame
¿Sí?
solicitud. Mándame la
Mandame,
solicitud.
vos mandame solicitud.
No puedo. Te lo juro. Pero, mira, poné mi nombre, es muy fácil.
Vamos al mismo equipo. No me jodas, ya te eligieron. Yo sigo en el mismo equipo. Bueno, toca bajar.
Second and third games, it's been a win and a second place. And the cool thing about
Vos,
this for
vos,
me is that
¿Vos qué estás haciendo? ¿Vos estás viendo esto, lo de Peter Bot y eso? ¿O está viendo otra cosa que no sé?
And then in game number 3 here, they were actually playing the low
Chaca
ground,
todos
right?
quieren.
Some of those eliminations to keep their refreshes going.
Ahí en la
That's what I
pantalla
really like to see. Acorn,
están
of course, we
jugando
know,
lo de la
for the
MS
best
de...
IGLs in the game. Paired up with a fragger, it just always works.
And it's not just a fragger. We've been watching Bolt since back when it was Bryce and Bolt. And, you know, a lot of eyes were on that duo. They were kind of the new shining duo a few years ago. And to see Bolt continuing to just climb up and to increase his ability and to join up, like you said, with one of the best IGLs in the game, well, that is why they're
Un
currently sitting
22
in
de
second
daño
place. But
y listo.
I am already starting to see quite a separation from first and second
¿Dónde
to the
está?
rest of our lobby.
Les doy un
And of course,
cofre.
that is the two teams that are going to be making their way to the EWC.
Poderosa.
Agers and Ritual, though, that big jump up, that does go to show that there's still opportunity for many of our teams to jump up into those top 2 spots.
Tengo que tener cuidadito porque tengo ya una mítica. Hoy tengo una oportunidad.
They can happen, and we do have 8 games, right? Like, we need to kind of continue to fire on all cylinders. We need to try and get as many points as we can, and then at the end
Me
of those 8
revientan, no
games,
tengo
we can kind
habilidad.
of see where the cards fall, right? But right now, you know,
No,
we
no,
need to
tengo
kick
que
things
ir a-
into high gear. We're about to start
Ay,
game
no,
number 4, and so I like to see that now, Agents Ritual, they're like, hey, this is our game. We're alive. We're still in this.
Yeah, I mean, incredible game from the duo here. Controlling the low ground for the entirety of the game. This is kind of what Ellie was talking about, expecting to see from the likes of Higgs, but the other side of things is actually Ritual and Ager's kind of claiming a lot of that low ground down there, but I already mentioned it, 9 placements jumping up the leaderboard there. Huge game for them.
I mean, honestly, I kind of like this difference between Agers and Ritual with Acorn and Bolts. I think they both kind of represent the same duo. You have these very intelligent players in Acorn and Ritual, and then you have the fragging prowess. But Agers is definitely a veteran and a long-time competitor. So Ritual and Agers together, I think, has a lot of potential.
Let's keep going down this right. I want to go to 5th, Cold and Rapid. Another 5th place with 3 eliminations, right? Like, hey, it's maybe not 24 eliminations, but the placements, we're just trying to find ourselves a footing, right? We need to build toward this consistency. And I'll admit, look, reload, it's hard to do that sometimes, right? But we need to start kind of kicking ourselves into high gear. And this is Cold we're talking about, right? Rapid as well. I have confidence.
Yeah, just kind of keep an eye on this too after game number 1 where they did try to flip that high ground. They did get it, but because of everybody that was kind of going for it, they fell a little bit short, right? Picked up 12th place. And ever since then, they've been progressively getting better throughout those games. I still would really like them to see that, try that high ground again, try to go ahead and claim it, because we've actually seen now that it is possible. They just have to go ahead and give it another try.
Maybe they knew that it was Peterbot and Pollo up on high ground, and they knew that there was no effort in trying to go for that high steal. And looking at that in-game right there, they just didn't have the material either to really go for it. So yeah, I agree. I'd like to see them kind of in like a little bit of a different in-game situation, maybe with just a little bit more material, and then going for that high ground again, like what we saw in game number 1.
I wanted to also kind of go back to the lobby list real fast and highlight 4th place, Paper and Resi. So out of them, first game 4th, then a 10th, then a 4th place again. We're kind of lacking on the eliminations, but listen, the consistency of placement is there, right? So now we just have to look to find those eliminations, and then I think we're set, right, Vivid?
How does Paper keep getting away with it, man? This guy like unretires from the game every couple of like 4 months and just comes back and qualifies for a final like this with somebody who a lot of us who have never heard of before, right? He just constantly finds talent in the Fortnite scene, brings them up to speed, and then qualifies for events like this. It is always incredible to see how well he does in these types of situations.
Honestly, I would love for this duo to stick together for the remaining finals that we have. I think that there's a lot of potential between the two of them, and it's he's a long-time veteran. If anyone's going to be able to kind of learn reload and learn the meta, it might be him.
I love it. Okay, guys, almost at that halfway point. Game number 4 is ready, so find your seats on the bus. Casters, take it away.
Nah, ya, vos te buscaste, no problema. Te va a venir la cuenta 8. Por rico, que es un rico, mi puta. Así que andate preparando que...
Yeah, consistency really is key, and that's what our top two have separated themselves. It was a 32-point lead over first and second. That has stretched, but so has second place lead over the rest of the pack. And I wouldn't want to wait until the second half of the tournament. I think this all starts right here. So if you're Paper and Rezi, if you're Agers and Ritual, if you're Cold and Rapid, now is the time to pick up that pace.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what is going to be the difference maker. How can you find yourself in a situation to excel ahead and still somehow slow down, maybe even Peterbot and Poyo, or do you just forget first and say, hey, I want that other qual spot, like that is what I'm fighting for? Well, we'll just have to find out as game number 4 is here.
The games do continue. Game 4. The important game before the halfway point. You really got to look at that leaderboard and reflect on what's going right, what's going wrong, and how to find that success. See Paper and Rezi, a triple contested Dirty Docks, and they're performing that well. This contested fight, King and Jargu have been winning it more times than not. Not necessarily wiping Josh and Iamzo, but pushing them back, getting eliminations, and basically getting most of the loot out of the booming base.
Yeah, they're doing a good job here, definitely slowing down Iamzo's kind of momentum, right? Not really allowing them to get too situated, and it's been fairly, I'd say, even back and forth between the two as far as who's earned what on points. As the games continue to progress, though, one thing seems to be more and more clear. We need to avoid Slurpy Swamp, and Peterbot and Poyo now no longer have anyone here at the moment, and this is their drop to do what they will with.
You can almost see him preparing the launch pad up above. Let me just get the loadout I need, maybe some extra materials, and you know Peterbot's going to be on the lurk, on the hunt, trying to find those early game eliminations. Clicks and Higgs, I say that loosely because Higgs has already went elsewhere. You see him trying to move back in, finding eliminations of his own. It was actually Arc that he did take down. Arc freshly off the reboot. Him and Kanata having a little speed bump in their game early on.
Yeah, nice find there, and Arc seems to be the one who's down time and time again now, at least from the last 2 games' performances. Take a look at the replay there. Look at that, just completely caught off guard there. And Higgs did manage to put a full kit together relatively quickly, so I do think it makes sense that he's caught all these players off by surprise, and then follows up with Lawrence too. So before we even left the Slurpy Swamp, he was already working on his second elimination.
Hey, they started this game roughly 8 points down of 8th place, which is Josh and Iamzo. With those 2 eliminations, they're trying to close the gap. Luckily, Iamzo was able to get one. It was a trade because Higgs, again, once it did struck, taking down Iamzo before you can actually clean it up. But you're going to see how these strats are changing as the game goes on. More and more players are willing to take that risk, send their teammate elsewhere, try to find those eliminations. And once Zone 4, once Zone 5 hits, that's when they start playing closer together again.
This little play right here from Peterbot. He's just watching what's going down there, seeing if he had an opportunity to open up. Nothing big revealed itself, so off he goes, and that could have been a nice little hunting rifle shot, but let's see it. He also finds Lawrence, so it was that a pickaxe, little damage in there just to go ahead and add the salt to the wound.
Yo, take a tour of their drop. I know they have a lot of extra barrels. You've seen 7 shockwaves in the inventory of Clicks. I feel like he's the one that's trying to stay alive. We've seen Higgs already get aggressive early on, so he's just maybe trying to keep that in the back of his mind. I might need all of this rotation just in case Higgs does go down. But you've seen it's already working out. They have 4 eliminations early on as a team, 3 of them on Higgs due to that strategy. And you see him elsewhere, away from clicks on the map, again, looking for these important eliminations if they want to close the gap.
Here it is, Peterbot just sticking to it. Catches Lowing the first time, comes back, picks him up again. That's Lauren's 3rd elimination, unfortunately, this game. Just falling victim to getting recycled for points right now. Cold and Rapid over at the Steamy Stacks. Okay, so this is the first time they're going to have a lot of time to work with as the zone is favoring the northern side. The west there. Higgs and clicks, though. Oh, big headshot there on the Yamzo. Add that to the Grizz.
Yeah, and I got to imagine that's got to be frustrating. Now Josh is just getting jumped on by Higgs. This could be a big way to kind of stop the tempo. Remember, they're neck and neck on that leaderboard. Does look like Yamzo did get back into the game, though. So for Josh, buying time is no longer needed. It's about surviving, trying to stay alive, so you don't both have to go on the hunt for loot. But Josh cannot take on the 1v2 against Clicks and Higgs. They do get the elimination, but at least he bought enough time to get a chance back in.
What a different game, though. 7 eliminations here. That is massive here. I was going to say 7 times 3 is 21 points for him already. Hold up, though. Forget the math. Peterbot, Boyo have more to deal with right now. They have Sharkman inside. Boyo now has officially arrived here. Sharkman trying to squeeze out what help he could. He gets caught in the cone, has to get out. The edits come through. It's just not going to be enough. What can you do there? Peterbot secures the elim, puts them up at 4 elims now, and